Okay, so when I say the American West, what picture pops into your head? For most of us, it's something really specific, right?
You're probably thinking of a huge, wide-open sky.
This really rugged frontier, a place brimming with possibility, where anyone, an outlaw, an outcast, could just start over.
And, of course, the guy at the center of it all, the hero, the lone cowboy, the classic John Wayne type.
But have you ever stopped to think about it? If you really look at all those movies, those old cartoons, the West always looks the same. It's kind of weird, right? Well, that's because it's a real place. It's Monument Valley. So how in the world did this one single spot on the Arizona-Utah border become the symbol for the entire American West?
Yeah, that didn't happen by accident. Not at all. This whole vision of the West was carefully, deliberately built. And believe it or not, it all kicked off with a pretty desperate plan.
So picture this. It's the 1920s, and this guy, Harry Golding, opens a trading post way out in Monument Valley. Fast forward to the 30s and things are bad. I mean, really bad. The Great Depression hits, a terrible drought follows, and the local Navajo economy is just devastated. Golding is desperate to bring some money into the area. So he gets an idea. He takes these absolutely breathtaking photos of the valley, the iconic red sandstone buttes, and he heads straight to Hollywood. And a director named John Ford, he totally took the bait.
And the result of that trip? The 1939 movie Stagecoach. And wow, was it a hit. It completely changed the game for Westerns, taking them from these kind of cheap B-movie things to a major blockbuster Hollywood genre. It was also the movie that made John Wayne a star. And just like that, the image of Monument Valley was burned into everyone's minds as the look of the American West, period.
So overnight, Monument Valley basically became a cliché, a super useful visual shorthand. John Ford himself used it in 7 more movies. He even used it for The Searchers, a movie that's supposed to be set in Texas. But it didn't even matter that it was geographically wrong. The image was just that powerful. It became shorthand for the West, popping up everywhere from adventure flicks and parodies to, even Forrest Gump's famous run.
All right, so you've got this epic landscape, but every epic landscape needs a hero, right? And for the American West, that hero is, without a doubt, the cowboy.
But here's the thing. The cowboy we see in the movies, he's not just some guy who works on a ranch. No, he's way more than that. He's this really complex cultural symbol. He's the quiet, stoic type, a little rough around the edges, sure, but deep down, he's this incredibly moral character who represents a whole way of looking at the world. And that really gets to the heart of his role in this whole myth. He's the guy who brings order to the chaos. He's the one who protects the settlers, tames that wild frontier, and basically secures the future of the nation. He's supposed to embody a spirit that feels completely and totally American. So for decades, this was the image that dominated the movies, the stoic cowboy in his epic backyard. But nothing lasts forever. Eventually, that simple hero story started to show some cracks, and the whole genre began to change. You can really break it down into 3 main stages. First, you've got the Golden Age, let's say the 30s through the 60s. This is when that heroic white cowboy figure was really cemented in our culture. But then came the pushback. People started looking back at these films and saying, hey, wait a minute, they were criticized for romanticizing a really violent past and for their flat-out racist portrayals of Native Americans and Mexicans. And that leads us to stage 3, the revival. Starting around the 90s and continuing today, you get movies like Unforgiven or Django Unchained that just start dismantling those old stereotypes, giving us much darker, more complicated and critical views of what the West was really like.
But here's the crazy part. Even as Hollywood was starting to question its own myths, there was this massive piece of the real story that it had left out. I mean, almost completely erased from the picture. Just look at this number. In the 19th century, historians estimate that more than a quarter, 1 in 4 of all cowboys working in the American West were black. Let that sink in. A huge foundational part of this culture, just written out of the story we all know.
The truth is, the real West was so much more diverse than Hollywood ever let on. The history of black cowboys goes all the way back to before the Civil War. There were even movies in the 1930s, sometimes called race films, like Harlem on the Prairie, that had all black casts playing cowboys. And it wasn't just about the guys either. Cowgirl culture was a huge deal, and women were often seen as even better riders than the men. But the classic Hollywood story, it just wiped them all away. So what you end up with is this massive gap between the myth and the reality.
The myth, it gave us the heroic, lonely white dude. The reality, it was a diverse mix of men and women, often black or Mexican, living really complex lives. The Hollywood cowboy was all about conquering the wild. The real historical cowboy, that's a rich culture that's finally being reclaimed.
And this isn't just some dusty history lesson. This reclamation is happening right now. It's a living, breathing, vibrant cultural movement.
It even has a name, the Yeehaw Agenda. The term was coined back in 2018 by an archivist named Bria Melandro, and it perfectly describes this amazing wave of Black Americans who are publicly and so proudly taking back Western fashion, music, and the entire culture and declaring, "This is ours too."
You probably remember a big moment around this. When Lil Nas X dropped Old Town Road, it was a global smash. It hit the top of the country charts, and then Billboard kicked it off. Their reason? They claimed it didn't have enough elements of today's country music. A lot of people saw this as just another example of cultural gatekeeping, of shutting Black artists out of a genre they were instrumental in creating in the first place. And you can see this agenda in action all over the place. You've got groups like the Compton Cowboys, who famously rode their horses during the 2020 protests against racism. You've got social clubs like the Delta Hill Riders down in Mississippi. They're the ones who went viral for riding their horses through a McDonald's drive-thru. And you have incredible artists whose work is all about celebrating and centering Black cowhand culture, finally bringing this hidden history right into the spotlight where it belongs.
So, the story of the American West is a powerful reminder of how a myth can be built piece by piece and how easily it can bury the truth. And it really makes you think, doesn't it? What other huge American myths are out there just waiting to be rewritten? And whose stories are still waiting to be told?